Hello everyone, welcome to the new video of the classical games series. Today we will be looking at the game between Wilhelm Steinitz, who was playing white, and Joseph Henry Blackburne, who was black. This is the first game of their match, and I will just quickly go through the opening moves. So they played the Spanish defense, or Ruy Lopez, and after some moves we reached this position. So here Steinitz played h3, not so much to prevent the pinning of this knight, because that can be dealt later. That can be dealt with later, but more to support the advance of the g-pawn, which was a very favorite setup of his. I have seen that in plenty of his games. So black castled, now queen e2, and knight e8. So as you can see, white is delaying his castling because actually he is hoping to generate an attack on the black king. So he doesn't want to have a king there. He wants maybe to put the king on the queen side or even leave it in the center. Today we know that you can even generate an attack on the king side with your king there. It is much more safe. But at those days, that's how they played, at least Steinitz. So g4, you see now this move that I mentioned, and this knight is gonna go through d2 to f1, and then either to e3 or to g3, and eventually to f5. So in the meantime, black is starting his operations on the queen side, and now bishop c2. You want this bishop here to be looking at the h7 and g6 spots. You don't want it on b3 because b3 f7 is very well covered. So bishop b7, knight bd2, following the plan, and now queen d7. So black is relinquishing this spot for this knight in order to remaneuver it to e6. White continues with the mentioned maneuver. Black plays his stuff, and the knight finally gets to f5. And as you can see, black immediately decides to kick it back. Maybe he could have thought of something like this, with the idea of saving this bishop and then later pushing g6 and transferring this bishop via f6 to g7. But okay, this g6 move can also be played, and white immediately captured on e7. And now, as you can see, white has a bishop pair, but the other point is that black doesn't have dark squared bishop to protect these black squares that are weakened around his king. But at the moment, white cannot take advantage of that because the position is closed, and also maybe one of these knights will hop in there and fill the gap. So bishop e3. In order for this bishop to come alive, white will have to push d3, d4. So bishop is coming exactly to e3 to support the d-pawn push. It's more logical to do that than to just put it on h6 without any follow-up. As you can see, anyway, black can block these squares with the knight. So now white castled, and black played c5 with the intention of advancing on the queen side, which is a very logical plan, but white played d4 as mentioned. So he wants to open up this bishop if possible and maybe block this guy with the move d4, d5. So black took on d4 once, and now he played a slightly dubious move, c4, because, okay, once these pawns march forward, the white king's position will probably open. But black needs to be a little bit faster, so maybe with the move like d5, he could force things more quickly, and then white would not have that much time to operate on the king side. He would have to immediately pay attention to his king. And but okay, you can c4 is also a playable move, but it's a bit dubious, because you see now white immediately closes the d file and closes this bishop, and he gains space. He kicks this knight back, and it's a totally different position. Now black can never play d6, d5 and hope to open the lines. He will have to push all these guys to break open, and also you see this pawn is blocking the way for the queen. The knight is already pushed back, so it's not so bad, but it is much worse than what could happen, because in the other line black would actually be better. And now queen d2. So before playing your bishop to h6, black removes the queen from the e file, because had he played bishop h6 immediately, if you notice, these queens are lined up, and black can just take this pawn, because white cannot recapture because of losing his queen. Therefore, white played queen d2 to remove himself from this e file, and black continued to push, and now bishop d4. What white wants to do is he wants to put the queen on h6 and try to open the h file, and maybe also play g5 and bishop f6 and try to mate the black king. But now black played f6 to prevent anything on the long diagonal, and white played queen h6 with a very simple plan of pushing these guys. Black cannot just wait, he had to do the countermeasures, but it's too slow. As you can see, had he played d5 on move 19, the position of white's king would be much more in danger, but this is just not so dangerous compared to what is happening on the queen side, on the king side. And now g5. This of course cannot be taken, because then let's say f takes g5, knight takes g5, and all of a sudden the mate is threatened, the bishop is opened, this pawn can open himself. After e5, this bishop can join the action. That's just bad for black. But okay, black didn't take here, but he played something even worse. He pushed the f pawn, and instead he should have just gone back and cover the f6 square, because in this manner he would somehow stop this bishop, and also he would make harder for white to activate this guy. Just look what happened in the game. After f5 was played, bishop f6 came, and when the queen moved, now white can just take here and release this g6 square for a combination. If here black took with the knight, it would be a very simple continuation. We would just take, and after retaking, g6. We cannot take with the pawn because of checkmate, and if you take with the queen, we can just win the queen by this simple pin. So at this point, black took with the knight, hoping that somehow this position is gonna hold, like the queen is protecting the g7, and the knight cannot jump in because of this pawn. But there was a problem, because after g6 the queen is attacked and there is a threat of queen h7 mate. So you cannot take here because of simple queen h7 mate. So of course you will not take that, but if you take with the pawn to prevent the mate, then the knight jumps in and the queen is attacked and the mate is threatened at h7. So at least black would lose the queen. Seeing all this, black replied queen takes g6. That's the only move that prevents the immediate disaster, but this move just loses a piece, because after taking here, black took here. But why he cannot take on g7? Because of the similar reasons, like in some variations before. The rook just comes to the g file, and the queen is a goner. Therefore, black decided to give up the piece, but this is just bad. After some moves like this, he even had to play here king f7, because if he would have taken on g1, then after this check, black loses another piece, as in this manner. Now he is just 2 pieces down, and this way he will just give up an exchange, but since he was a piece down, that's going to be a rook down, so I don't know what's worse. But he played king f7, and this was soon over. Something like this has been played, and after rook to the central line, black just resigned. He is a rook down in a completely lost position. That was it for this video, and goodbye.